Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Tuesday, March 6, 2018 Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin the meeting with a flag salute led by Jerry Carden. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now move to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by the County Executive Department. All items will be approved by a single roll call vote. Anyone may ask to address consent items prior to the board taking action, and the item may be removed for discussion. Any items from board members? Anyone in the audience wish to remove something? Seeing none, we will ask for approval of the consent.
Duran? Yes. Wygant? Yes. Bueller? Montgomery?
Aye. In the affirmative. County is a yes. Moving down. We're good to go. You got it?
You're good.
Yeah, it's okay.
Holmes?
I suppose. Yes. All right, thank you. Now is the time for public comment. Persons may address the board on items not on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes per person, since the time allotted for public comment is 15 minutes. If all comments cannot be heard within the 15-minute time limit, the public comment period will be taken up at the end of the regular session. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. Now is the time for public comment. Is there? Okay. Go ahead. Whoever's first.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Of course, you have another packet. I'm here on a very serious matter this morning. I'm here on the behalf of my community to call for the immediate suspension of, and to the Board of Supervisors, and specifically you, Supervisor Euler, to vote for the removal of District 4 Planning Commissioner Jeffrey Moss. Okay, so as citizens and residents of Placer County, we deserve and demand fair and honest government. Commissioner Moss has violated his oath of office to uphold the state constitution and therefore its laws. He has violated the Placer County Code of Ethics and the Placer County Conflicts of Interest rules, all of which are derived from state laws. And so these are not just allegations that I make whimsically. We have given you 160 pages from 2 years of research that we have found these. So these are not something that, oh, we just happened to ignore the rules or not do things. Please look at them, because the facts are there. And we deserve fair and honest government. Supervisor Euler, last year, before you reappointed Mr. Moss, many of your constituents emailed you noting the illegal activities and the lack of qualifications, but you appointed him anyway. So we're here today because, obviously, we still have an issue. The report in front of you is a record of some, not all, of his illegal and unethical acts. There is no question as to whether these were illegal. They were, and he had to mitigate them. We'll go through some of them. Commissioner Moss violated state and county laws for his own personal financial gain and continues to do so, and we as a community say no more. No more self-interest above public service. No more selective enforcement of state laws and county codes. No more lying and falsifying documents. He does not represent my community. No more. Placer County officials are to be held to the highest ethical standard. Commissioner Moss' actions have violated the public trust, and he just needs to go. So what has he done? I'm going to go through them quick because we have only 2 other speakers, but I want to respect your time, and I know we have some other people who want to talk. So he's broken state laws. We know that he had an NOV. He's been punished. He had to buy 1.2 acres of mitigation, cost him $150,000. He had to redesign his drainage. And we have a map in there that shows he's still inside the riparian area and doesn't meet your setback rules for zoning ordinances. His 2 businesses have business licenses. The first one, 9970, is for an APN that doesn't exist and has not existed since 1998. So completely invalid business license. The other one is pending, and he's been in operation for 5 months. Now that's, look, 6 months, thank you. The county's tax collector, Janine Weinhausen, who's responsible for issuing these valid business licenses, these business licenses, and they don't meet county requirements. Commissioner Moss was found dumping asphalt behind the homes in my neighborhood and forced to remove them. We turned that into Cal EPA, and he was forced to move that. Definitely wrong. I'm just going to skip through a couple of them. He knowingly violated his conditions of approval and kept his businesses open from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. instead of the mandated by this board 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. that runs through my neighborhood. So he's running boats and RVs up to 11 p.m. for the benefit of his customers so they can have a full day on the lake. Commissioner Moss misled and provided false information about the review of improvement plans, saying that they were vested and they had gone through an environmental review and you had final maps based on a Tree Lake Terrace EIR. That is categorically false. The documents are in here. Phase 1 was subdividing a lot. Phase 2 was building a subdivision. Nothing about storage, nothing about anything on lots. In fact, your planning commissioner, Fred Yeager, said there's no development proposals at the time.
Sir, are all your comments in?
Well, then let me just finish by saying these are just some of the, because I know other people. There's many allegations here. He's got 10 acres of storage on a 5-acre parcel. How is that possible? It's all there. He's paying $400 of taxes on 5 acres of land. We deserve the right to be represented by fair and honest government and non-selective enforcement. We would hope that you would take this seriously and take the action and move forward with suspending Commissioner Moss and voting, and I'm looking at you, Supervisor Euler, as my representative, to uphold the ethical standard that you all have to live by for AB 12, for the Code of Ethics, and go through the Code of Ethics. He's violated 4, 5, 6 of them. He is not representative of the body and the public servants in this county, and he needs to be voted to removed. Thank you.
We need your name. You didn't give
Scott
us.
Vaughn from Granite Bay.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bradley Cutler from Granite Bay as well. We presented to you 3 times in 2018, but not have heard a single word of response. So we've taken your silence as a vote of condoning and supporting the improprieties you've just heard, and which are spelled out in your booklets. To reiterate Scott's speech, these deeds and actions taken by Commissioner Ross demonstrate an utter disregard for the Code of Ethics he's supposed to uphold. They are in direct contradiction of the conflict of interest code he swore to observe. And the Commissioner's actions show contempt for the guidelines, the codes, the conditions of approval, the laws prescribed by the state and federal government, as well as the prior decisions of this Board of Supervisors. And your silence is deafening. And I hope those who come after you will show more respect than you have shown to your predecessors. Now you have to decide what your legacy will be. Will you sit in silence and support these egregious moral lapses, ethical transgressions, unlawful actions and crimes perpetrated by Commissioner Moss? Or will you stand up for fair, open, and honest government that follows the oath of office, doesn't profit from one's position, recuses himself or herself from a conflict of interest, and pays their taxes? Are you going to speak out against those corrupt injustices? The problem with these actions is one begets another, and it gets another, and the cancer grows as co-workers have to cover for their misdeeds and lies. And this pattern of behavior is now embedded in different departments, where they have to compromise the integrity and professionalism of each person to cover up and bend the rules, look the other way. Just what happened with our grading permit. There was a grading report supposed to have been submitted before grading commences in order to determine the site's fundamental planning issues. Commissioner Moss checked the box on the application indicating work was done, but it wasn't. Then the work started anyway, and the report arrived a month after grading was completed, 90 days later. It has been modified. It was not modified numerous times in an attempt to make it legitimate. Had it been done by the law, without the staff bending the rules for Commissioner Moss, the Scba notice of violation for destroying and altering an acre of wetlands may have been diminished, and the multi-use trail may have been placed there, and a legal license might have been obtained before the construction commenced. But now we have people scrambling in the departments to justify their actions, rationalizing their decisions, and ignoring those who haven't drunk the Kool-Aid. Ted Gaines may have been able to keep Commissioner Moss out of jail this time, but that was only one of 12 transgressions we've outlined for you today. I doubt he can pull that rabbit out of the hat 11 more times. So the decision is yours. Continue your current course by remaining seated and silent and watching more illegalities transpire and more fraud being perpetrated, Wait another 6 months for staff to try and desperately transform Commissioner Moss into a legitimate, licensed business operator, look the other way and ignore his conflicts of interest and abuse of authority, overlook his tax obligations, and let staff cover their mistakes and watch the parade of interest conflicts, his influence peddling and false statements and fraud continue as usual. In the alternative, you could stand up for fair and open government and do what you're elected to do. Treat your constituents like you'd like to be treated, fairly and honestly. Be the ones to stand up to this litany of corrupt behavior. Respect your predecessors and your constituents. Do the right thing. Drain your swamp, supervisors. Remove Commissioner Moss and regain the respect of your community.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and other county members. My name is Linda Ferguson, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Wildfire Safety and Recovery Act. Since moving into Auburn in 2016, I've learned something that most of you have known for quite some time, and that is namely that fire insurance is high for this area. Recently, Senator Lara has sponsored the Wildfire Safety and Recovery Act to stem the tide of insurance cancellations and non-renewals across the state. I am aware and appreciative of the Board of Supervisors' efforts to support this legislation. This legislation is essential to addressing the issue of non-renewals. However, there is another problem that needs to be examined, and that is the issue of fire risk zoning or rate classification. It is unclear how insurance companies zone property to determine the risk. In trying to get a better understanding of why our property is zoned at 13 and our neighbor at 11, I called several insurance companies, the California Department of Insurance, Veris Analytics, and the National Insurance Services Office. The insurance companies were either unwilling or unable to provide me with an answer other than to say that our classification is determined largely based upon the satellite view of our property, and that other factors include fuel, slope, and access. We were told that we are a Zone 13 primarily due to our property being situated in a high brush area, and yet you would have to venture a distance of over 200 feet from our house before you encounter anything resembling brush. At the same time, both properties are required to meet the Homeowners Association requirements with regard to CAL FIRE risk mitigation criteria. When I asked the insurance companies how we might mitigate risk and reduce our zoning level, I was told that it couldn't be done, that once those zoning levels are established, they are not subject to change. Today, I'm asking that you work with Senator Lara to include in the Wildfire Safety and Recovery Act clarification, consistency, and transparency in how property is assessed for wildfire risk. I'm also willing to volunteer my time to help in researching this issue to ensure that the proposed legislation addresses these objectives. Thank you for your time and all your efforts to help protect our community, not only from the threat of fire, but also from potentially unfair business practices. I'm leaving a copy here with you today of what I just said. It has my name, address, and phone number on it. This issue is complex, and so within the 3-minute limit is, cannot begin to express the issues that are in this.
Thank you. We'll make sure we all get a copy of that. Hello.
Hi. My name is Cheryl Workema. I've been a Granite Bay resident for 20 years. I also would like to echo Scott Vaughn and his successor in the removal of Commissioner Moss. I'm very disturbed that, having worked in many Fortune 100 companies, that Placer Human Resources, with 160 pages, is not aware of all these issues that have been brought up. I agree that it's very cancerous-like, and what happens is you now have a whole new generation of Placer planners that are being influenced by this type of behavior. I would suggest that not only an investigation happen with Human Resources to understand how pervasive this issue is, but I would also suggest that legal action be taken against him. I think it's deplorable. Not only, I think it was a month ago, Supervisor Euler tried to backdoor something to do with Tree Lake storage, and I know Supervisor Wigand and Supervisor Montgomery expressed their displeasure that this was brought up. I think that shows that not only does this behavior go up, it goes sideways, it goes down, and I think that some immediate action should be taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't start the buzzer, I have to have a drink.
Good morning.
My name is Francis Petkovic. I live in Tree Lake Village, Granite Bay. First, I want to thank each of you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. But on the flip side of that, I also want to express my complete dissatisfaction with this board, especially Supervisor Euler, who in my eyes has completely ignored the homeowners of Tree Lake Village in our efforts to resolve the issue of a continuing expansion of the Tree Lake Village storage facility by repeatedly referring to a permit that was supposedly issued in the 1989 timeframe, allowing for open growth per Supervisor Euler without restrictions. Plus, requests for public hearings have been denied, along with requests for an environmental impact study and the placement of a moratorium for future growth. Please be reminded the only means of entry to and from this facility is via residential streets, specifically Parkford Circle. I can't believe that this board, combined with the Planning Commission, including Mr. Moss, Kevin Moss's brother, and along with the Planning Department, will allow such a facility to exist with continued expansions in this residential community. If I may, how many of you have visited the site, and have you ever questioned why a moratorium has not been invoked, preventing any future growth? Nobody's visited the site?
I visited. Yeah.
That's not good. Do you have any knowledge of any storage facility of this size located in a well-established community having to use only a residential street for access? Keep in mind, this facility prior to the current expansion housed 263 parking spaces, 221 storage facilities at varying sizes, totaling 484 facilities. Couple these figures with what the expansion will house, believed to be between 32 and 54 storage facilities that will accommodate mobile homes larger than Greyhound buses. An additional 51 exterior uncovered units located under the high-tension power lines combine the total roughly to about 587 facilities for parking, etc., meaning all this traffic will travel on Parkford Circle. Next, I would like each of you can split it up. Half of you live on one side of Parkford Circle and the other half on the other side. Now, these homes are well maintained.
Right.
I'll hurry. Be quiet. Are well maintained. The grasses are cut and everything. There's a park near there. 6 o'clock in the morning, you have Greyhound buses going up and down your street. And as Scott Vaughn identified, and we brought this to the attention of the Planning Department, and they stopped it supposedly, he advertised, we're open from April 1st until November 1st, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., so you can spend more time on Folsom Lake. I've never heard of a facility like this located in a residential area. Mr. Moss didn't start this facility until after he sold all 734 lots in Tree Lake Village because he knew the potential buyers would resent the plans. Remember when his so-called permit was issued, there were no homes. There was no one there to complain. There were only 734 lots identified on a set of plans, meaning there was no opposition to be had. Pretty clever, or would you say a little bit sneaky? Well, now it's up to each of you to correct years of faults and blunders. Please don't let this community down. Also, please don't use the excuse that there's a lawsuit pending because the complaints were filed well before the lawsuit. I want to thank you for your time. Are there any questions? And if I may, we as a community would appreciate hearing from you your plans for resolve. We'd like to hear something in writing addressed to Mr. Scott Vaughn within 5 days. Now, those of you that haven't been there, I'm sorry, but I say shame on you, because there's a beautiful community that's being destroyed. Where can you have a facility such as this without access only to a commercial road or a business street, not through a residential community? When we bought our homes, nobody told us about all this. And I believe I heard the ladies say that right behind their homes, there was asphalt there. I think it was February 9th, 2017, we met with Steve Spaghetti and his staff, identified that the problems there, identified the hours of coverage, or open hours. They put a stop on that supposedly, walked over and identified to them about the asphalt over there. At that time, somebody from the storage facility came over, and Mr. Spaghetti asked them, where did these chips come from? He said, we hauled them in.
Sir, we're getting ready. We got some other people that want to speak, so
Okay, I'll
we can wrap it up.
make it real short.
Thanks.
The point, the answer was, we brought him to Sacramento County, and he said they have to come out of here. Did you have a permit? No, he didn't. So
Thank you.
we don't have any defense. You're our defense. That's what you're there for. Please help us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen, ladies. My name is Sharon Duchessi. I am a home caregiver in Placer County. I live in Rockland. Please forgive my head. I did St. Baldwick's on Saturday. Thank you. I am here to talk to you guys about, I also belong to my union. I am Placer County representative for my union. Home care workers are one of the top 3 employers in Placer County. We generate a lot of money in this county, and we are currently in bargaining, as you guys know. We are asking for your support in our bargaining that we're going through right now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone in Tahoe that wants to speak to the board? I'm looking at the screen there. I see none. All right. Okay.
Is there somebody in Tahoe?
Yeah, no.
I was actually born and raised in Tahoe, so
Where?
all about
Wow.
respect for that. So my name is Amy Day. I'm the organizer for United Domestic Workers here in Placer County. I was originally a home care worker. I know I've introduced myself previously to you guys and have seen many of you guys at community events, and I know the type of folks that you guys are, and I'm really honored to be working with you guys to help make the lives of home care workers better here in Placer County. Mr. Duran asked for an economic impact report, which you will be receiving. But we made this flyer. I didn't have time, since I'm a single mom with 3 kids, one's disabled, to print it out for you guys, but I will be emailing it to you. But I just wanted to read it to you guys real quick. Investing in IHSS caregivers is a win-win for Placer County. Thousands of Placer County seniors and people with disabilities rely on IHSS home care to get the care that they need. But with low wages for caregivers and underfunding, this care is at risk. Placer County can do better. By investing state and federal funds that are already available, the County Board of Supervisors can help seniors and people with disabilities get care and generate millions of dollars in local economic activity. To learn more, we have a website, and by investing just $707,000 in IHSS, the county generates $16 million in revenue and $22 million in local economic activity. And so, as you guys know, that this program saves the county the state tens of thousands of dollars every day just by having the program and keeping people in their homes where they belong with dignity and respect. Placer County, prior to the minimum wage going up, was actually above other counties and really treating their care providers better than a lot of counties in the areas by having higher than minimum wages, by having the vision and dental for their home care providers. Since the minimum wage has gone up and living expenses, groceries, all of that has gone up, we're just asking for you guys to support increasing the MOU, increasing the funding to home care workers so that they can make a livable wage, so we can continue providing that care for folks to stay in their homes where they belong. And I know that's where all of your hearts are also. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for all being here for me today. My name is Alison Davis. It's an honor and a privilege to stand here before all of you. I am a UDW. I do belong to the union, and I am a home care provider. I care for my son. I am a mother of a CHP officer, highly functioning, and I am a mother of my oldest son, very low functioning. It's changed my whole life. My daily tasks are overwhelming, not to say it is so disheartening to see my son struggle on a daily basis. My life has changed. I can no longer work out of the home. I've been asked to leave 2 jobs. I am a widow, and I'm doing this all alone. And I would, which concerns me, what would happen to my son if I become deceased. I need the help of IHSS, and I am so thankful that I'm asking for your support in the bargaining. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to cut public comment off after this gentleman. We're running out of time, and we got to move on to some timed items.
And good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Green. I too am an IHSS worker, and I do care for an elderly veteran. Her name is Barbara Lingelbaugh. I stand here every single day in her voice and her needs. I do also rely on IHSS in order to meet her needs and care. And it is a very strong and very important thing to us. Without that, there would be no taking care of her, no meeting her needs or anything. So I stand here today, and their voices as well, to ask you to really think very hard on this and see what we can do, and not just her name, but everybody else's name, to take care of them as well. And thank you for your time. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
If you are going to, my name is Christopher Martin.
Yeah.
I'm also a resident of Tree Village in Granite Bay. I understand that you'd like to cut off public comment, but I would ask that if you would take a moment and allow the people who have come here to express their difficulties they've had with Mr. Moss and with Mr. Euler, if you'd let them stand up so you can see how many people took time out of their day to come express their displeasure with the board. I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you.
These are just the people who were able to take time out of their day. There are many more who weren't able to.
All right. Appreciate you all coming. We understand your concern, but we do have to move on with our.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
briefly before,
Yeah.
Go ahead, have a seat. I would like to address some of the things that have been raised here. First, by the gentleman who has expressed his concern that after 3 appearances before our board in public comment, you haven't had any action. Of course, the meeting procedures are read, and the last thing the chairman says is the board is not permitted to take any action on items addressed in public comment. So, I'm sorry, I am speaking in the mic. Is it not picking me up? Okay. I will speak more loudly. How about that? Will that help? Okay. To that point, through this entire very publicly played out conversation, you've never once called me and asked me for a meeting. Never once. Now, you stood up at the MAC meeting and demanded that I convene a public forum at the fire station, but you never once called my office and said, Kirk, can we sit down and talk? Can we meet about this? Can we have a conversation? We're concerned about these things. As all of this is played out, every time we come here and we get something else. And the first time that I see it is when my colleagues see it and we all see it together. You're making some pretty serious accusations about some folks who have been in our community for a really long time, myself included. And now those accusations are spilling over to our planning staff, our public works staff, as if these folks are in the business of like covering up for Mr. Moss or something along those lines. And clearly you've expressed that concern. So with that, let me just tell you that, number one, anytime you want to meet and talk, I'm happy to do that. You have my cell phone number. You've called me before. So anytime you want to meet and talk, I'm happy to do that. But never once in this entire process have you said, hey, we're going to get a group of residents together. Would you come and meet with us? Because I'd be happy to do that, Scott, number one. Number two.
We did.
No. You stood up at the MAC and you demanded that we convene a public session where I would act as arbiter between the Mosses and you at the fire station. It's never happened.
Let him finish, please.
Never happened. That's number one. Number two, there are three members of this current board, myself, Mr. Wygant, and Mr. Holmes, who were here a few years ago when staff discovered some, shall we say, questionable activities that were conducted by a member of our planning commission, by an appointed planning commissioner. Staff discovered this. Staff initiated the investigation. Staff got county council involved. County council brought it to our board, and our board, upon receiving the evidence of questionable actions by a member of the planning commission that were benefiting that member of the planning commission, our board removed that planning commissioner. It was staff initiated, it was followed up on by our county council, and our board took the action to remove that commissioner. And as a matter of fact, ironically, that's how we ended up with Mr. Moss on the commission, because Mr. Moss's predecessor, the former District 4 representative on the planning commission, took our board to task, was critical publicly of us removing that planning commissioner. So I didn't reappoint that planning commissioner, and I appointed Mr. Moss. So this board has a history, our staff has a history of looking for where there might be issues and what can we do to, especially if there's any allegation of anything untoward. Staff has a history of initiating that process. County council is very good at protecting our board and the county's interests in that regard by bringing these items forward to us, and our board has a history of acting on these things. So all I can do is give you that example by way of illustrating that the county process about which you are concerned has a history of working when there is a problem. You've made allegations here. I have no doubt that county council takes these allegations very seriously, and I have no doubt that county council will be following up on these. Whether or not they respond to you directly, they come back to our board, I don't know. But at any time, Scott, the rest of you, at any time, feel free to give me a call. We'll sit down, we'll talk about the concerns, and we'll figure out what we can do. Okay? Thank you.
Supervisor Duran.
No, I was just going to comment on Kirk's last statement. I can assure you that county council will be looking into this.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Now, public comment is over, sir. Thank you. All right, we will now. All right. We will now move to our 9:05 timed item, Public Works and Facilities, Annexation to Sewer Maintenance District Number 1.
Before we do that, I did have an announcement under board member and county executive reports.
Excuse me.
In light of the recent shooting at the Florida High School, we're going to be having School Safety Forum on this Thursday, March 8th at 7 o'clock at Jones Hall at the grounds, which is the Placer County Fairgrounds off All-American Drive in Roseville. I've asked the Roseville Joint Union High School District representatives from the Roseville Police Department, representatives from the Sheriff's Office, Placer County Office of Education, and Placer County Health and Human Services Department to sit down and just have a forum and discuss the particular issues that are related to these events, to discuss items of preparedness, things that parents should know, things that anybody in the community wants to look out for. So I encourage everybody that can attend to do so. If you can't make it, that event will also be live streamed on our Placer County live stream system. Thank you.
And Chairman Holmes, under this same supervisor's report, I wanted to let the board and the public know, and this relates to the issues you raised, ma'am, that on Wednesday, March 21st at 1:30, I will be participating in a Senate hearing focusing on drought, climate change, and fire. How is the California homeowners insurance market responding? And I will be bringing forward Placer County's legislative platform position, which is, as you know, has been adopted this year and last year by our board. Critically important issue, and just want to let you know that it is very much on my mind.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, how about you? You got on the executive report? No items. Okay, good. Okay.
I did have one question. I just kind of want to get a clarification. On this Laura bill, I don't think we've taken that up. I think we've taken up the concept of looking into it, but I don't think we've officially taken that position. Is that correct?
In the legislative platform, the board
conceptually
offered support for bills related to this insurance issue.
Right, the insurance issue, but this particular bill per se, I think we need a little bit more study on that.
Well, the board hasn't had a practice of bringing every bill that the legislative officer in the CEO's office follows it and brings letters of support. That would be a change in practice to bring a bill before we offer those letters of support. That's why the platform tries to call out those areas where we...
Those broad. That's all. That's the only point that I'm trying to make. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, and just as Jerry points out, if this board wants to have a policy discussion about whether or not we vet each and every letter that is deemed by County Council and CEO's office to be consistent with our legislative platform, we can certainly choose to do that. But the intent of adopting the legislative platform with broad yet constrained focuses on legislation, whether state or federal, is to actually facilitate the process of sending letters.
All right. Thank you. All right, now we will move to our 9:05 timed item.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Andy Darrow with Public Works and Facilities. I'm here to request that your board hold a public hearing to consider annexation of parcel number 076-181-019 into Sewer Maintenance District number 1. The property is located at 13055 Dry Creek Road in the Christian Valley area. Jason and Nicole Lognian are requesting annexation of their 2.3-acre parcel in order to connect to public sewer. If approved, the applicant will be required to pay the annexation fee in effect at the time they choose to make payment, and currently the annexation fee for this parcel will be $6,344. Staff supports this request, and in order to move forward, I request that your board hold a public hearing and at the end of the hearing, adopt the resolution in the staff report to annex parcel number 076-181-019 into Sewer Maintenance District number 1. And with that, I'm happy to answer any question.
Any questions for Mr. Darrow? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back for action. It's been moved and seconded to approve item number 1, annexation to Sewer Maintenance District number 1, Longigan property. Do we need a roll call? Or is that just, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any opposition? The item is moved. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And now we'll move to our 9:10 timed item, Community Development Resource Agency Status Update, Placer County Sustainability Plan. Angel Green and Crystal, and that other girl.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for having us this morning. I'm Crystal Jacobson with the Planning Services Division, and the item before your board today is an update on the county's sustainability plan, otherwise known as a climate action plan. Just point out that this work program was kicked off in September of 2017 following your board's approval of a scope of work and contract with the consulting firm Placeworks, who will be preparing the plan with Placer County. With me today is Angel Green, who's going to provide a presentation on the work program. I also do want to point out or introduce Lauren Moore behind me here, who is assigned to Placer County as a Civic Spark Fellow with the Local Government Commission, who's been assisting Angel in leading the work program. And then also we do have a representative here today from our partner, Sierra Business Council, Paul Arns, who's in the audience. He's helped to prepare the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which Angel's going to speak to here in just a minute. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angel.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Chairman Holmes and CEO Leopold and members of the board. My name is Angel Green. I'm with the Planning Services Division, and I'll be providing an update on staff's efforts to prepare a sustainability plan. As Crystal mentioned, staff initiated back in 2010 the preparation of the greenhouse gas emission inventory, and this was with the assistance of Sierra Business Council with funding that we did receive from PG&E. Shortly after, staff was not successful in obtaining any additional funding until 2017, when your board executed a contract with Placeworks and also with the approval of the 2016-2017 Planning Services Division budget. Soon after, in June of 2017, we initiated work with Placeworks and Sierra Business Council to update the greenhouse gas emission inventory. The Sustainability Plan work program includes a number of tasks that are necessary to complete the sustainability plan. We have a few items here in blue that have been completed or are in progress. I will state that we were actually very early in the process, but we do have a number of key tasks here that are necessary to complete this effort, and in this presentation I'll be going over those in more detail. All right, so what is a sustainability plan? Often you may hear these plans being referred to as either climate action plans or greenhouse gas emission reduction strategies. These plans essentially are roadmaps that outline various programs and policies that will be undertaken by the community and the county as a whole in order to achieve the greatest cost-effective emission reductions possible, but while maximizing economic benefits. Some of the goals that we hope to achieve with this plan is to conform to California laws and regulations, to implement the county's general plan, and also to provide a CEQA tiering streamlined process for new development projects. California has adopted a number of regulatory requirements aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and many of these have established emission reduction targets that the state must achieve. In addition to these greenhouse gas reduction targets, we do have a number of Senate bills that are also aimed at identifying areas that are impacted by climate risk, and the county is required to consider these within its general plan. The intent is to prepare a plan which meets the provisions in the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines necessary to streamline the environmental review process for the greenhouse gas emission analysis in our CEQA documents for development projects. The sustainability plan would then create consistency and predictability in the way that project-level greenhouse gas emission impacts are analyzed and where mitigation measures are imposed on development projects. There are four main components to the sustainability plan. The first one is the greenhouse gas emission inventory, which identifies the relative emissions that are coming from various sectors in both the community-wide and the county operations. We also have our reduction strategies. This component identifies feasible mitigation measures that are implemented in order to reduce emissions necessary to achieve the identified target. We also have the feasibility and implementation component. This section will go through a cost-benefit analysis for each mitigation measure. We want to be certain that measures are feasible, that they make the most sense for Placer County residents and the county. And we also want to make sure that we have a good implementation program to allow for that as well. Last, we have the vulnerability and adaptation component, which will identify areas most vulnerable to climate risk and provide resources to residents to adapt. So the first key task, the greenhouse gas emission inventory, this is now complete. We have the Placer County operations and the community-wide inventories for the years 2005 and 2015. Those are now complete. Those were completed in January of this year, just recently. There are two separate inventories. Again, the first is the community-wide inventory. This analyzes emissions that come from our unincorporated areas in the county, and looking at emissions that occur from or resulting from our residences, our businesses, and visitors. We also have the county government operations, and that inventory analyzes emissions from the county's operations and its own facilities. So if we look at the report, which was contained in the staff report, we find that the largest source of emissions comes from the community transportation sector. The second largest sector was the residential energy use, and then third we have our agriculture sector. For the community-wide inventory, we found that in 2015, there was more than 1.1 million metric tons of carbon dioxide or CO2 which was emitted. This is an 18% decrease from the 2005 inventory. And this is primarily the result of reductions in energy use, water usage, and then also some reductions in agricultural activities. For the county operations sector, in 2015, the county's government operations generated approximately 49,000 metric tons of CO2. The solid waste sector is the most significant contributor of emissions in the county's operational inventory. The inventory did show a slight increase in emissions coming from the Western Regional Landfill. However, this increase is partially offset by cleaner sources of electricity, as well as reduced propane and gasoline consumption for the county's buildings and fleet. So the next steps in the process is to complete a forecast of future greenhouse gas emissions for both the community-wide and the county operations. The forecast will allow staff to determine an appropriate emission reduction target that would be necessary to reach any given level of emissions by years 2020, 2030, and 2050. And this would be in accordance with the state recommended greenhouse gas reduction targets. I will mention, as most of you are aware, the county actually has quite a few programs already that's helping to reduce emissions. And so as we go through this process, with both our baseline inventory and with preparing our forecast, we will want to be sure to take credit for many of these programs that we already have in place that are helping to reduce emissions. And here are just a few of those programs that we'll be considering. For our next steps, it also includes completion of a vulnerability assessment and adaptation strategy. And here we have just a few examples of strategies that we may find appropriate for our sustainability plan. With our tree mortality issue, we believe it will be important to identify tree removal programs. In dealing with extreme heat, we're looking at maybe perhaps AC unit replacement programs. And then areas that have been impacted by flooding, looking at being able to increase our infrastructure for permeable pavement. I also have a few examples here for potential reduction strategies, and the goal of these reduction strategies would actually be to quantify the emission reductions from these various measures necessary to achieve our identified target. So again, just a few examples. Maybe perhaps looking at renewable energy incentives, in expanding our public service and also EV infrastructure to reduce our mobile emissions, and maybe even perhaps expand compost and recycling methods and operations. And last, we do have our feasibility and implementation component. And as I had shared, we will be preparing a cost-benefit analysis to make sure that those measures are feasible. We will be looking at potential funding sources for strategies that we will be developing. We'll also be creating a number of tools to allow for streamlining and easy implementation throughout the development process. All right, so I'll go over just briefly our outreach strategy and a few meetings that we have coming up before I conclude. So we have an outreach and engagement strategy that has been prepared. We are very early in the process. Again, the greenhouse gas emission inventory report was completed in January. And so with that, staff began our outreach in January, reaching out to our municipal advisory committees to provide the results of the inventory, to talk about the process moving forward, and then also to let folks know about our upcoming workshops that we have scheduled. In addition to MAC meetings, we will be targeting additional MAC meetings in autumn of 2018, where MACs will be able to weigh in on the proposed reduction strategies and adaptation measures. In addition to MAC meetings, we are going to be hosting a number of public workshops. We do have one that is scheduled here in Auburn for March 8th. We were hoping to also host one in Tahoe this week on March 7th, but we have just decided that that date doesn't work well for us, and we're going to postpone that until April. The purpose of the workshops, again, will be to provide the results from the greenhouse gas emission inventory, and then also to seek input related to our vulnerability assessment. Additional workshops will also follow, again, with a focus on review and refinement of emission reduction and adaptation strategies. A technical advisory committee has also been formed. This consists of expert staff from various agencies, utility, and special districts, all who have a stake in the sustainability plan. Our technical advisory committee is looking very closely at our emission inventory. They will be working with our staff and consultants on the forecast, and will continue to be involved with the process as necessary. I did just forget to mention that for our online engagement, we do have a dedicated web page and an email address where folks can go online to receive additional information. Last, we'll be meeting with our key stakeholders, where we will be continuing discussion of the plan as it progresses, and we hope to kick off that effort. We actually did start a few months ago, but we will be kicking up that effort here this month. Just a few upcoming meetings I'd like to bring to your attention. We do have the first informational update to the Planning Commission that is scheduled for this Thursday, March 8th. We will have another TAC meeting also on March 8th to look at the final results from the greenhouse gas emission inventory. Again, our Tahoe workshop, we're going to postpone that until April, but we will be continuing with our workshop here in Auburn for March 8th. So I'd like to just point out the next 3 times that we should be coming back here to your board for direction. So the next steps in the process includes the forecasting of the future greenhouse gas emissions and identifying an emission reduction target. And so staff would like to present this information to your board, perhaps as soon as summer, and be able to receive any feedback or direction that your board may have on those items. We do expect to complete this process and bring the sustainability plan back to the board early 2019 for final approval. So that concludes my presentation. As stated in the staff report, there's no action that's actually requested at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, we do have Paul Arns with Sierra Business Council if there's any detailed questions relating to the inventory that he might be able to answer.
Okay, thank you, Angel. Supervisor Montgomery, I see your light is on, or?
Yes, thank you. Angel, thank you. I want to say thank you for putting off the Tahoe meeting until April. We were having difficulties getting word out to the community in the very short time frame around that. And I think there's some additional opportunity with the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council and some of the other MACs in that area to maybe help spread that word. I really want to make sure we get a robust turnout in far eastern Placer County. I wanted to make sure that under stakeholders, although you had already listed the Pioneer Community Energy CCA in the groups that are already doing things to support the current effort, I would suggest that if you haven't reached out to Janine Windishausen and make sure that you come in front of our group, give us an update on this. Supervisor Euler and I both sit on the CCA board.
Okay.
But I think it would be very helpful to our CCA board to try to get some ideas about policies, programs, projects that we can do in the coming years that would support the work that we're doing here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Supervisor Duran.
Problem is resolved. You might have put some smokestacks or something on there to kind of give it a little bit more urgency.
Some
But no, this
smokestacks
is a beautiful
or-
picture of Tahoe.
And that's a lovely picture of the foothills.
Yes. Thank you.
Supervisor Wygant?
Angel, good report. We've talked about this a little bit, but I'm focusing on fuel load reduction, healthy forest management. So in the inventory, I'm assuming, based on our conversations, that we actually, in the inventory, there's probably no assumption that there'll be a major fire event, correct?
That is correct.
But we have pretty good modeling on what greenhouse gas emissions and other constituent air pollutions are as it relates to something like the Star Fire, which was, I recall, about a 20,000 acre event, right?
Correct.
And-
If I could just clarify, though, with the vulnerability assessment that will be prepared, there will be a qualitative discussion of the wildfires and the risks and the emissions that could be generated. So although we may not find within our greenhouse gas emission inventory and forecast an expected wildfire result, we will have some discussion within the vulnerability assessment component.
That's perfect. So, and will it kind of winnow down to like the probability of another Star Fire type event? Will it get that accurate? And will then the emissions prediction follow all of that?
I'll need to follow up with you on that. I don't have that answer today, but I'm happy to look into that.
Yeah, so with all that, just as one member of the board, I'd sure like to see the state move more in that direction and embrace that concept, because I know in terms of our modeling, we can be really good at doing that, and we can also predict if we do a forest treatment that it'll reduce the exposure to that particular fire crowning and the resulting star type of fire. And to me, it seems like the state is not quite on target with where it ought to be in that effort. So, maybe we can do more here and help lead the way a little bit. But other than that, great report.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Supervisor Wygant, if I may, the Tree Mortality Task Force, the Governor's Task Force, has been having discussions around this, and I will say that I am starting to see good movement at the state level to recognizing that we need to really get into our forests and do our defensible space work, not just for air quality issues, but for watershed issues and just general forest health issues. We do recognize work done through our own air pollution control district that 40% of the black carbon that's generated in California is generated from wildfire. And so that there is a huge component of trying to figure out how we calculate those a little bit hard to predict, but we know they're coming impacts from wildfire and how we roll it into this conversation. But I can assure you the work is being done both by our staff here at the Air Pollution Control District and, frankly, the state's really starting to identify that they need to address this much more robustly than they have in the past.
All right. Anyone else have any comments? Anyone in Tahoe or in the audience have any comments or questions? All right. Very good. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Good report. We'll now move to our department item 3, Community Development Resource Agency, 2017 Annual Housing Element Implementation Progress Report. Shauna.
Good morning, Shauna Purvines, Community Development Resources Agency, and I'm here to present the 2017 Housing Element Implementation Report. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the public an opportunity to comment on the report prior to its submittal to the state, and to answer any questions the board may have on that report. 2017 was a busy year for housing, both for the county and for the state. The county actually implemented a multi-departmental housing unit that includes the Public Works Department, Health and Human Services, Community Development Agency, Economic Development, and that is managed through the CEO's office through Jennifer Merchant. CEDRA itself also implemented a brand new unit for housing and economic development to focus on policies and regulations as it relates to housing. And the county also just kicked off a couple of housing projects over 2017, one here on the west side at the DeWitt Center, looking at up to 80 units of affordable units as part of the Placer County master plan for the government center. And the other one was looking for funding resources for Schaefer's Mill up in Tahoe. As we've all heard, the state was very busy in 2017, passing 33 new laws, and 2018 seems to be stacking up to be as busy for housing there as well. So with that, I'll see if you have any questions and then allow if the public has any comments.
Any questions from board members? Seeing none, it's the public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing for comments on this item. Please come forward. Morning.
Hi, good morning. Sherry Cusick, I'm from Rockland. I have a couple of quick questions. This implementation progress report, it's going to be submitted April 1st. There's public comment. Is today public comment, or is there going to be, is this it before the report is submitted?
As far as I know.
This is it?
Yeah, this is it, right.
So I guess, where can I get more information on this report?
Shauna, can you help her with that?
I just have a couple quick questions. Yeah. So there's a comprehensive housing resources. I kind of scanned through the memo on this. There's a comprehensive housing resources guide. Where can I get a copy of that guide?
Those are available on the housing website. So that was listed in the report. Or?
The housing website. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's just the Placer County website.
Okay.
With housing.
This report mentions a homeless strategic plan to be started beginning February of 18. Where can I get information on the homeless strategic plan? Is that also in the housing report?
That is with the Health and Human Services Department, okay. But there is a link from the housing website as well.
HHS, okay. They mentioned working with stakeholders to find one or more permanent emergency shelter in the county. So my questions on that: who are the stakeholders? Have any locations been identified? What's happening at 4242 Cincinnati Avenue? Is the county still working with Placer Rescue Mission? I know they submitted their information, or their proposal or whatever back in November, or updated information in November meeting. So can I find out more information? Is that also?
Sure, and we can also talk after.
Okay, perfect. Okay. There is emergency shelter zoning text amendment that allows shelters in 3 different additional zoning districts. Can I find out where the districts are?
Absolutely.
Okay. Monthly meetings have been held for affordable housing stakeholders to address emergency shelters. Are these meetings open to the public?
Mm-hmm. I believe they are, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and if I could find out when?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, that might have been, that might. Okay, so pretty much we can just meet and I can just get the additional information. So this is it. This is the public hearing for.
No, this is just an opportunity for you to comment on the annual housing report.
Before this
but at
is
any
submitted
time,
on April 1st?
Yeah, well, even after we're required to submit by April 1st, but you
Okay.
can comment on housing programs or the housing report at any time, both to the county and to the state.
Perfect. Yeah, the memo was just kind of, I didn't understand a lot of it, and a lot of it was, very, very clipped information. So if I can get more information on the report to be able to submit, or, if I have any questions. Perfect.
Absolutely.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
Shauna Purvines.
Okay, Shauna.
Did we
Can
get
we
her
meet
name?
afterwards?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Shauna.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else have a comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. It's just an update, so we don't have to take any action, I don't think. All right, thank you. We'll move to item 4, Health and Human Services, Narcotics Treatment Services Contract Amendment with the GS Treatment Centers LLC.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, Chairman Holmes and members of the board. I'm Amy Ellis, the Director of the Adult System of Care, and today I have an action item to approve a contract amendment with Aegis Treatment Centers for continued narcotic treatment services for Placer County residents. This would increase the funding by $400,000 for a revised total of $5,800,000 ending this June 30th, 2018, and also authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the amendment and subsequent amendments not to exceed $50,000 with risk management and county council concurrence. Aegis is currently our only NTP provider and offers a necessary part of our substance use treatment continuum to residents experiencing opiate addiction. The county is responsible to provide access to Medi-Cal recipients in need of this level of care. In July of 2017, Aegis was awarded a Department of Health Care Services grant to increase access to rural areas through a hub and spoke model, and this was in response to the opioid epidemic, to increase access to this life-saving medication. So Aegis, with this grant, works together with some of our other medical providers within Placer County to increase the locations and the types of services that are non-drug Medi-Cal funded in order to be able to help save more lives. Utilization has increased for the past several years. It's been on the rise to access this life-saving medication, and that's the reason we need to come to you to increase the contract. The number of people being served in their Roseville location increased from 575 to 625 in 1 year's time. These increases in services are funded through federal and state substance use funding and are included in the department's fiscal year 17-18 final budget. No additional county general contribution is required. I ask this board to approve this contract amendment with Aegis Treatment Centers.
Right, thank you. Any questions for Amy? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Narcotics Treatment Services Contract Amendment with Aegis Treatment Centers. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The item is moved. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to item 5, Public Works and Facilities, Cook Riola Road Pathway Project.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Kevin Ordo with Department of Public Works and Facilities. I'm here today to ask you to adopt a resolution to award construction contract number 957 to Tiger Construction in the amount of $1,449,750 for the construction of the Cook Riola Road Pathway Project, and then also authorize the Director of Public Works and Facilities or their designee to execute future contract change orders up to 10% of the contract amount with no single contract change order exceeding $150,000. The project is primarily funded with federal funds, and it will provide a pathway that will connect Creekview Ranch Middle School north all the way up to Baseline Road, and I believe it will provide pathway for the entire length of Cook Riola Road between Baseline and PFE. And with that, any questions?
Any questions from board members? Supervisor Durant.
No, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. This has been a long time coming. It's a public safety issue. If you've ever been out on Cook Riola Road, it's an agrarian area outside the county, and this will provide an opportunity for kids as well as adults to go back and forth from the school. So it's been actually it was on the table, I think, even before I was here. So it's glad to see it coming to fruition.
Any other questions? Any members of the audience have a question on this? Seeing none? It's been moved and seconded to approve the Public Works and Facilities Cook Riola Pathway Project Construction Contract with Teichert & Son. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item is moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll move to county executive item, the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus equipment and related supplies for the Placer County Fire Department. Mr. McEldowney.
Chairman, board members, good morning. My name is John McEldowney with the Placer County Office of Emergency Services. With me today is Nevada Yuba Placer Unit Chief, Placer County Fire Chief, and Placer County Fire Marshal George Morris as well. Today I'm going to ask your board to approve the award of negotiated purchase orders to All-Star Fire Equipment Incorporated of Hayward, California, using the competitive bid from the state of California for self-contained breathing apparatus, equipment, and related supplies for the Placer County Fire Department in the maximum aggregate amount of $803,031 over the 4-year period beginning March 6, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. Funding in the fiscal year 2017-18 through fiscal year 2020-21 budgets will be split between the Fire Control Fund, Sheridan Zone 6B, Western Placer Zone 76, Community Facilities District 2012-1, the Sunset District, Dutch Flat Zone 150, Dry Creek Zone 165, and North Auburn Ophir Fire Zone 193. I'm also going to request that your board approve the Placer County Fire Department's fiscal year 2017-18 through fiscal year 2020-21 proposed self-contained breathing apparatus replacement plan, as well as approve the board revision to move $10,018 within the Placer County Fire Department's fiscal year 2017-18 Fire Control Fund to allow a fixed asset purchase of fit test equipment, which is one component of the self-contained breathing apparatus plan. Also, I'm going to request that your board add the fit test equipment to the fiscal year 2017-18 master fixed asset list, and finally, approve the option to negotiate purchase orders on a year-to-year basis using the State of California contract number 1-17-42-04 for as long as a contract is in effect, not to extend beyond June 30th, 2021, and in the amounts proposed annually on the replacement plan, and authorize a purchasing manager to sign all required documents subject to departmental concurrence and available funding. By way of background, the Placer County Fire Department's 2018 self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, replacement plan is a staggered approach to replacing the SCBA equipment throughout the department over a 4-year period. The SCBA equipment currently in circulation is nearing its life expectancy of 15 years, and in order to provide Placer County Fire Department with reliable, functional, and National Fire Protection Association compliant equipment, an SCBA replacement plan is required to methodically phase out old respirators and cylinders. Other SCBA equipment scheduled to be replaced in the plan are spare cylinders, a fit test machine used to correctly size masks to the firefighters, inventory software for tracking the new products, protective bags for the masks, rapid intervention crew or RIC packs for firefighter rescue, and confined space bottles for technical rescue. The State of California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, better known as CAL FIRE, has recently switched SCBA manufacturers from MSA to Scott Safety as a result of a competitive solicitation. On June 29, 2017, the State of California Department of General Services awarded contract number 1-17-42-04 to All-Star Fire Equipment Incorporated for SCBA equipment and related supplies. The contract is in effect through June 30th, 2020, and contains an option to renew up to June 30th, 2022. Placer County Fire Department can utilize this State of California contract to benefit from the lower cost per unit, maintain intercompatibility with neighboring mutual aid departments, and receive maintenance services to the SCBA equipment, as well as a 15-year manufacturer's warranty. Section 1.3-E-3 of the Placer County Purchasing Policy Manual permits the use of contracts awarded by another public agency, provided the contract was competitively bid and awarded, and that Placer County receives the same or better pricing and terms. The State of California contract meets this criterion. Therefore, your board's approval it is requested to proceed with the award of the contract to All Star Fire Equipment for the period of March 6, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, and the maximum aggregate amount of $803,031. In terms of fiscal impact, the total cost of the $803,000 will be distributed annually over a 4-year replacement cycle among the Placer County Fire Service Area components and the Fire Control Fund as follows. The Fire Control Fund will absorb 25%. Sheridan Zone 6B will be 2%. Western Placer Zone 76 will be 15%. Community Facilities District 2012-1, the Sunset District, will be 20%. Dutch Flat Zone 150, 3%. Dry Creek Zone 165, 15%. And the North Auburn Ophir Fire Zone 193 will be 20%. Funding from each of the Fire County Service Area components and the Fire Control Fund is currently included in the fiscal year 2017-18 budgets and will be requested over the remaining 3 years of the replacement cycle. In terms of an annual breakdown for the next 4 fiscal years, that's essentially $311,443 for this current fiscal year. For 18-19, it's $245,724. For 19-20, it's $226,376. And then in 2021, 2020 and 21 will be $19,488. So unless there's any questions, that concludes what I had to say. And I wanted the unit chief here in case anybody had any technical questions that I'm really would be, tap dancing to try and answer for your board.
Okay. Supervisor Drain, did you have?
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. It's always nice to know when the equipment that you have is up for renewal. I know, I think it was last year, we purchased 3 new trucks that are in the process of being built right now. My question, you answered it partially. There's a 15-year life expectancy on the Scba equipment. I'm assuming that they have to be tested interim within those every so many years. Is that accurate?
They're maintained. Part of that software purchase in that first year is to be able to make sure that that's tracked efficiently. They have a 15-year shelf life, so the bottles alone have a 15-year shelf life. They're hydroed every 5 years. They're tested every day. Basically, they're checked out every single day for their operation. What's nice about this contract is that it includes a maintenance component. So prior to that, we were sending firefighters through Scba tech classes. We were maintaining inventory of parts and pieces and doing the maintenance ourselves on that. And now with rolled in the prices, as one gets taken out of service for whatever reason, it goes back to All-Star, goes to Scott, it's repaired, we get a loaner, and it comes back to us. So that maintenance piece, the training that comes with that, the maintaining of those techs, that goes away. So there's a little cost avoidance there over time, too.
Okay, so then that's kind of what I was getting to, is was there any other costs that would blow this up that weren't in this packet? So I think you've answered that.
That's one, and the other part that's nice about the 4-year is that as the next 15 years comes along, we have a stepped approach to replace them as they go. Because if I go down to how many are up for replacement, just the bottles alone, 11 this year, 27 next year, 10 in 2019, and 258 in 2021. Guess which one was bought on grants?
Yeah.
So this phased approach is going to help us over time.
Now, I know when we talked about zones of benefit, you had mentioned to me that there were some pieces of equipment that it was difficult to go from one zone to another. I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Scba equipment is one of those, is not one of those pieces of equipment that it goes wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, it goes where it needs to go, and by sharing a percentage of the cost of each of those units, it kind of takes that argument away.
And are we still working to break down those invisible boundaries related to equipment transfers?
Yes, that's ongoing.
Okay, well, I'd like an update on that to find out where we are, because I've been trying to get more insight in that for close to 7 years now. And I can go through the history of where this has been. It's been all over the place. Nobody can still explain to me what the whole rationale behind the zones of benefit is. But I would like to hear more about it from you.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery?
Thank you very much for the presentation. You rattled off a few numbers of the SCBAs that are going to be replaced over the coming 4 years. in the coming 4 years, will that replace our entire existing inventory of SCBAs, or are there more beyond that?
No, that will replace the entire inventory.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I wasn't able to do the numbers quickly in my head. What is the total number of SCBAs that is going to be funded through this?
For next year, it will be 49 SCBAs, year 2, 45, year 3, 41. I believe, let me see, we have 139 in our inventory.
139 total for
Yes.
$803,031.
Correct. And
Yeah,
that's including extra bottles. And
Understood. And I just really want to highlight that, because these things are incredibly expensive pieces of apparatus. And we had the Forest Hill Forum meeting last night, where they were able to apparently identify some replacement SCBA. I think we're all aware that they were facing a probably $50,000 to $60,000, I think, investment. They mentioned they were able to identify SCBAs that are going to have, I believe they said, another 3 to 4 years on them. So they've been able to defer those costs. I mean, this is a significant cost per piece of equipment. The one question that I did have, thinking about our relationship with special districts, is it says that part of the benefit of this contract is that it maintains intercompatibility with neighboring mutual aid departments. Are we aware of what the other departments are using? Are they using SCOTs? Are they using MSAs? Are we comfortable that these are going to be interchangeable with other departments?
Scott is the industry standard. We were the anomaly with MSA. Most of them are in Scott. There may be one other agency that's in MSAs, but we're getting closer.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll. Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 6 under county executive. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move to, under County Executive, item B, Sister Cities Initiative. Sherry Conway.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Sherry Conway with Economic Development. Staff is here today to provide your board with the opportunity to discuss and provide direction on 3 separate actions related to a potential economic development opportunity. The first action for your board to consider is developing a formalized Sister Cities program that would create an exchange of ideas with other municipalities, counties, provinces, and other types of local government entities around the world. Sister Cities International is a non-for-profit entity aiming at promoting peace through people-to-people relationships with local government entities. These partnerships exchanges fall within a broad range of topics that typically fall under 4 distinct categories: youth and education, arts and culture, business and trade, and community development. And worthy of note is that both cities and counties are part of the program. 48 states in this country have sister city relationships. In fact, many communities throughout California partner with multiple jurisdictions around the world to engage in exchange of ideas and identified shared interests. Your board may wish to consider creating a formalized Sister Cities International program here in Placer County through a membership with the Sister Cities International organization. The second action your board is being asked to consider today is to select Nanping County in the Fujian province of China as the initial local government entity with whom to develop a Sister Cities exchange relationship. In recent decades, it's no surprise that the Chinese economy has grown to become the second largest trading economy in the world. Placer County has only just realized a small fraction of the potential investment in exports to China and possible Chinese investment here in Placer County. In 2016, Supervisor Jack Duran and Mr. Mike Holmes traveled to the Fujian province in Nanping County to begin a dialogue of potential mutual economic opportunities. To build on that today, your board may wish to consider establishing an initial Sister Cities relationship with Nanping County in China. The third action your board is being asked to consider today is to support a funding request not to exceed $20,000 for a small delegation from Nanping County to visit Placer County. The intent would be to identify potential economic development opportunities for both entities. During the visit, the delegation would tour sites and exchange information regarding several industry subsectors, including healthcare, manufacturing, agriculture, education, and tourism, particularly highlighting the recent Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows efforts to partner with China in their preparation for the upcoming 2022 Winter Olympic Games. We see this opportunity as a regional one, and to that end, we have received letters of support from the City of Lincoln, the City of Auburn, the City of Colfax, the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, and the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. With that, your board may wish to consider supporting funding to sponsor a delegation from Nanping County to tour various sites here in the county. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions your board may have.
Any questions from board members? Supervisor Euler.
So let's talk a little bit about the economic opportunities associated with this, the economic development side of it. Are we going into this with any, beyond, you obviously mentioned Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows connection, beyond that, do we have any industries that we're looking at taking advantage of profiling? Is it our agriculture industry? Do we have anything behind this that would provide us with any kind of objective measurables to determine whether or not, if we decide to make an investment, it's paying off? Do we have, and you've alluded to the long history of sister city relationships across the country, 48 states doing some iteration of this within their local jurisdictions. Do we have success that we can point to through that to say, because of jurisdiction here in New Mexico, their relationship with Uruguay, they were able to see the importation or exportation of cactus fruit increase sixfold? Whatever. Do we have anything that where we can look to it and say, based on the fact that this has been around for a while, people have been doing this stuff for a while, we're able to look and we're able to analyze and say, if we get into this business and we do it this way, we can demonstrate a positive return on investment?
These are good questions. Cactus fruit exportations notwithstanding. So the first piece of it I would address would be the Sister Cities International membership. So with that membership comes a whole host of an array of amenities, if you will. So networking, connecting with diplomatic corps. They offer assistance with visa consultation and all sorts of toolkits and a grants database. They actually assign you a staff member once you join, and you can work with that staff member to leverage all of the data. You know, I'm all about ROI, so I completely concur with you. So the amenities and the benefits of the Sister Cities International membership are many. The cost for that membership annually is $1,300, but it does provide some significant, I would say, return on investment in terms of opening up the opportunity to access their staff and their database. Part two, with your question, would be with the delegation that would come from Nanping, I would like to see a focus on our industry subsectors. Your board has seen the South Placer employment profile that we had commissioned last year, so we know full well who our major employers are here in the county. For example, TSI Semiconductors in the city of Roseville receives parts from China, so we'd certainly want to look at some of our industry subsectors that already have a natural relationship to manufacturing opportunities in China. I can't say for yet who that delegation would be comprised of, but I would hope that it would be representative of our major industry subsectors here, which are tourism, manufacturing.
I can't speak to that. The first one is going to be KSL. They're very interested, and they're already doing some exchanges right now. Andy Wirt's company is in the process of actually building out the mountain in China for the 2022 games. And they have an ongoing employee exchange program right now. And he's verbally told me that he's committed to participating in part of the delegation. While we were in Nanping province and the other provinces, Fuzhou, we had heard that there's also a need for care providers in assisted living homes. I don't know how that works out, but there's several fairly prominent folks in the assisted living care that are based here in Placer County that are interested in having a discussion as to whether or not there could be some interplay there, in addition to agriculture and some opportunities in ag. So I think we have three major prominent points here: tourism, the business connection, and agriculture. Mike, did you have any other things that you wanted to chat about that you've discussed? Okay, when it comes to your, okay, great. All right, thank you.
So, if I'm certainly open to the first step of exploring, at least providing you and your department, your economic development team, with an opportunity to see, is this a tool, this relationship with the Sister Cities program, is this a tool that will be of benefit to us? We have yet to really dig into it in order to see how can we leverage that kind of a relationship. Likewise, obviously, we have fairly robust efforts at the state level and the federal level to encourage international trade, particularly in the Pacific Rim. And so I would hope that we would be looking at this from the standpoint of what are we not reinventing? How do we take advantage of what others have already done to identify possible business partners in other parts of the world, be it the Pacific Rim or other areas, that based on what our county profile is, based on what our current services sector is, what our current finance sector is. We know where our income comes from in terms of business activity. So all of that exists, and I want to encourage us taking that step to begin looking at how we can leverage international relationships to enhance our business climate here. As far as taking the next step is concerned, and specifically inviting a delegation from a particular province in China, I would hope that we would first do some of this background, do some of this work to establish some of this objective criteria to say, will this delegation coming over here and us investing in inviting them over by assisting with some travel costs, will it check some of these boxes? And so where I'm certainly comfortable with moving forward with the notion of beginning to explore this, it looks like we might have predetermined that before we have that objective criteria before us, we're going to go ahead and operate under the assumption that this particular delegation from this particular province in this particular country will meet some of the criteria that we hope to have established. And so while I'm certainly comfortable with taking that first step today, I'm not comfortable taking the subsequent steps today.
Supervisor Wygant.
So my questions, I guess, similar to Kirk's concerns. I'm open to the idea, the harder time with the money at this particular point in time in terms of an investment in economic development. I'm not adverse to the idea at all. I would actually consider that one of our assets is Mike Holmes and his background, and happy to hear from Mike anything he might have to add to.
Assets.
Oh, assets.
Okay.
With his career and cultural and language background as relates to China generally. A long time ago, I sat on the SACTO board for a while, precursor to Sacramento's current economic development effort. And after HP came to town, NAC followed it, which is now KSL. And they created a Pacific Rim committee, generally looking to Japanese, particularly investment here, but generally Pacific Rim investment. So I like all of the idea, but I'm just not quite sure that is Nanping County the right place? Does it have a industry mix? The agricultural part I get. Also, any information that you might have today or as we go forward, partnering. SACTO did a lot of that where companies, they would typically send delegations both to Europe and to the Pacific Rim, but there was an awful lot of partnering by business interests who might be a little bit closer to a return on investment than just generally considering spending some money. So anyway, I'm open. That's my predisposition coming in here. I'm open to any and all thoughts that you have today and or as we move forward on it. But the budget that you have in here, it looks like it does not include that $1,300 membership.
That's correct.
And so I'm kind of wondering if we're going to spend 20, why would we not spend an additional 13, or if in the 20, should we not include 1,300 to have that list of amenities I think you referred to as it relates to the sister city organization. So just any general reaction that you might have or anyone might have to those thoughts.
I will say that one of the benefits of the Sister City membership is, if you will, imagine a Match.com sort of, where you submit your profile of who, I'm not kidding you, this is how it works. You submit your profile of who you are as your jurisdiction, and we do have good data that we understand a lot better of who we are with the reports that we've been developing. And so you submit that, and they play the role at finding and suggesting an array of other sister cities or counties who are looking for those kind of similar paralleled interests. So that is one of the benefits of having the membership, is that they can work with you, and we're not limited to one partner city. We can have multiple ones. Many jurisdictions have up to 6. So optimally, we want to align ourselves with other like jurisdictions, whether it's industry and the other economies, so that we have some mutual, things in common.
And then if, you mentioned the list of recommendations, Rockland Chamber, Lincoln Chamber, City Councils. Did we ask, and I recognize and acknowledge the fact that I missed the last meeting where we had this discussion before, but I did actually research it and have some conversations about what was discussed by the board. Was there any ask there for matching contributions, and or have we done that with any of the potential business partners at this point in time?
I think there was a general solicitation of support, whether it was just general or financial. No financial commitments were received specifically, but we did receive just general letters of support from the 3 cities. And the 3 cities, again, were Lincoln, Colfax, and Auburn.
And Rockland Chamber, you said, were they Lincoln Chamber also?
Lincoln Chamber and Auburn Chamber.
Supervisor Montgomery.
So the last time we had the conversation around this, my concern was, how do we demonstrate ROI on an investment? And I'm not seeing that answer today. I think Kirk's question about, what was it, cactus fruit or whatever it was, sort of gets to the concern that I have. I love this idea. I think we should probably spend the $1,300 on Match.com.
Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Placer County's looking for a date, okay? Maybe a long-term commitment and a marriage. Who knows? But I think it sounds like that $1,300 would be money well spent to identify appropriate partners, and it may be Nanping County. It may be Fujian Province. I don't know. I can't predict that. But I would suggest that we move forward with step 1 today, and we utilize step 1 to see if steps 2 and 3 make sense for a future decision-making point.
That's it. Okay. Why is Nanping province more likely to be a sister county with the province with Placer County. And I'm looking to Mr. Holmes that maybe
you're
have a
looking
better
fancy.
answer.
Do you want to? Do you want him to answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Can you help me with that?
Well, Your Excellency, by the way, thanks for loaning me the tie that you got at Goodwill.
You're welcome.
And honorable board, I do have some comments that I think may answer some of your questions. First of all, I just want to mention that this got started because of the effort of a group of Chinese in San Francisco to put a monument to the Chinese railroad workers who built the railroad across the Sierras, which is going to be at Gold Run. Hopefully they'll get the base of the monument up this year, and then the formal dedication next year. And also the fact that the 2022 Winter Olympics are going to be in Beijing, and as was mentioned, there's already a relationship going between Squaw Valley and China on developing ski industry there. We first discussed this with Dave Snyder when he was the Economic Development Director, and after some research, Nanping County in Fujian Province seemed to be a good match for a couple of reasons. One, they have a mountainous area with protected forest lands that's supposed to be managed in a very careful way. Whitewater rafting, a number of outdoor sports, plus they have a citrus industry that's not unlike our own here in Placer County. So as was mentioned, the summer of 2016, Supervisor Duran and I self-financed a trip to the area where we met with senior provincial officials and many at the local level as well. We delivered a letter at both levels, both the provincial level and the local level, inviting the delegation to visit Placer County. That letter had been signed by Robert Wygant, who was chair of the Board of Supervisors at that time, and we were warmly received and given introductions to several industrial operations, a battery producing business operation, and also a wire, high tension wire thing, as well as some different museums. And although the original estimate of the cost of hosting 6 people for 5 days back in at the end of 2016 was overly estimated, we've taken another look at that and what the true costs would be. And I just want to mention about return on investment. Currently, 28 students from China go to Sierra College. They pay fees, housing, and according to Sierra College, the estimate is that that increases $476,000 per year into the economy, and that's not including what the students spend out on their own, out in restaurants and hiring cars and all this other stuff. William Jessup estimates with 27 students that they contribute $1.244 million to the local economy. And I just mention this because as this moves forward, hopefully, that there will be more Chinese students coming to this area in Placer County, and that the increase It would be part of the return on investment. They estimate about 31 jobs at Sierra College are attributable to international students. Also, you mentioned several businesses that already deal with China. I just want to mention Ceronics here in Auburn is also has operations in Fujian province. So now tourism. Tourists from China are in the tier one market by Visit California. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, Chinese visitors are the highest spenders of any foreign groups reaching this country. In 2015, it was estimated to be $26.9 billion of Chinese visiting the United States. Not all that was at California, obviously, but nevertheless a significant amount. And those were 2015 figures, and they've increased since then. Visit California also estimates return on investment of $330 for each dollar spent on tourism promotion. If you take $20,000 and multiply it by $330, that's a significant amount. Approving this could result in teacher exchanges, cultural groups, agriculture, in addition to tourism, the Tahoe ski industry, and it could become a driving force for tourism here in Placer County. I also mentioned that I received verbal assurance from the city of Roseville that they are going to approve the support of this particular initiative, and the Loomis Town Council is taking it up officially, I think, next week. So I think, and also the Placer County Visitors Bureau has voted to support this particular initiative. So yes, yeah. So, any other questions?
Any questions for Mr. Holmes?
Well, it's not a question so much as a comment, which is this is all really valuable information that I should have seen or heard before today's board meeting. We need to have very specific things that we can look at and data that we can verify ahead of time. We often tell folks who come in front of us, this is the first we're hearing from you about this. And I kind of feel like we're in the same situation here. There may well, as I said earlier in my earlier comments, be real value in this. But I have not had the opportunity to look at all the references that you just cited. And so I just don't feel prepared to move forward with anything beyond step one at this point today. I mean, and there may, as I say, be full value in this particular partnership, but I need the time to look at it, research it, and have the conversations to affirm the information you're bringing to us.
How long is that going to take?
I would, at least our next board meeting.
Okay, then I would move to table this to our next board meeting.
Well, if I may, I'd be curious to hear from the person who's going to be challenged with putting together the data and all the rest, how long she thinks it would take. I mean, you've heard some input from all of us now, and I think what I'm hearing is we're all comfortable with moving forward with establishing that first step of engaging with the folks that do this for a living. And so based on that and what the kind of information we're going to be looking for in terms of selecting good partners for us to move forward with, how long do you think it will take you to get back to our board with some data?
I've been in discussions with the Sister Cities International Organization, querying if this board were to be interested in moving forward, what that process was like. So we've teed up an application. We've not yet joined, so I imagine that process to become a member and be assigned a staff advocate could take more than 2 weeks. But I'd like to have the opportunity to engage in a conversation with the organization so that we're fully aware of all of the benefits that that membership could provide us in terms of finding our multiple matches potentially. So a month?
So, yeah, I mean, if I may, I just would suggest we just table it until staff is ready to bring it back. Because it's the kind of thing I want to ultimately support. If the data substantiates it, I want to be on board with it. And, I love nothing more, whether it's folks from South America or Asia, wherever, to be able to welcome delegations here and be able to point to specific business opportunities that we can explore together and all that. But I just suggest that we wait until we actually have the data come back to us.
Supervisor Euler, if I could get a clarification, are you suggesting that we move forward with step one?
With step one,
and
then let staff come back to us on items 2 and 3 when staff is ready to come back to us on items 2 and 3.
I would be supportive of that approach.
If I may, a lot of what I just told you, I have the information to give to her, so that...
And that's helpful.
Yes. And so that shouldn't take very long to put more data together. And in the meantime, you could check with the Sister Cities organization and hopefully bring it back to the board this next meeting, if possible.
Okay.
Yeah. On the consent agenda.
That's right. Supervisor Wygant.
Well, setting aside the fact that Kirk said he was warming up and looking for ways to support the idea, that almost caused me to completely change my opinion. But one of the things I was actually going to recommend is that we go ahead and fund the Sister City subscription now, if that's acceptable to everybody, because that just seems to drive a better strategy. Yeah. And I want to say that I consider Mike's relationship and the fact that you two guys toured over there an attribute that we already have going in. But absolutely. I'd like to see some color photographs of Fujian province and Nanping County, and I want to know more. I mean, there are a lot of obvious things, like many predict China to be the largest economy fairly soon. Obviously, they're emerging. Obviously, we're doing a lot of trade with them. Being in California, there's good proximity fit in that regard, but just not quite enough meat on the bone yet for me. And I want to have a strategic orientation that, we've thought through this, and this, in fact, is a good fit, and therefore it's worth making this investment for a range of ways whereby we actually could see a tangible return to it.
Thank you.
If I may, just add that part of my concept of this delegation coming, that probably one of the persons would be an interpreter, but the others would come from the tourism industry, from education, from the manufacturing sector, and basically Chamber of Commerce type of people as well. And because we did have a meeting where they were all represented there when Jack and I were meeting with them, and and some of them actually have degrees from the UK and other places. So, and some speak English quite well. So.
Okay. Would they have somebody with agricultural background, Mike?
What's that?
Would for sure there'd be somebody with an ag background?
Yes.
I'd be interested in that part for sure.
Yeah, and well, some of the places that we were looking to take them would be to Pacific Industries and Gladys McBean, see some historical stuff, and and our museums, and of course take them for one day up to Tahoe, and with the tourism thing, I think there's a big potential there, because as you are well aware, there are more people in China now who are moving up into the middle class, there are probably more people in the middle class in China than there are in the U.S. because the middle class in the U.S. is going down. So anyway, I'll shut up and.
I would, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you meet with both Jen and Robert and Kirk, give them the information that you have, and let's try to bring back these pieces,
Yeah, okay.
quickly. So,
all right.
President Garrett.
Yeah, I think there's a path forward here that gets to a 5-0 vote on this and really messages to whoever our partner ends up being that the board is fully behind this and committed. And I just want to get to that path. I don't want the message to whoever our partner ultimately ends up being, oh, it was a 3-2 vote, one way or another.
Yeah.
I want it to be Placer County is 100% behind this, as are our partners in the cities and the business community.
Well, we have a wonderful DVD of Nanping County that we will be happy to loan you so you can see for yourselves what this place is like. Okay. And it's in English, too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So seeing no more conversation, I think the request before us is to approve item 1 and table item 2 and 3. Is that correct? All righty. So.
And did item 1 include the submitting the $1,300 fee for?
Yeah.
So
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Finally, the motion is passed. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.
If you'd have brought that across, you could.
Chairman for life.
Chairman for life.
So we're not going to go into closed session. Please take us away.
The board will now adjourn to closed session to discuss one item for a conference with legal counsel to discuss one item of anticipated litigation.
All right. Thank you. We will return after close.
Please tell them public comments closed.
Yes. All right. We just returned from closed session. Jerry?
The board has returned from closed session where they had a conference with legal counsel regarding one item of anticipated litigation. The board heard a report and gave direction to counsel. That concludes the closed session report.
And that concludes the Board of Supervisors meeting for today.